I walked away from that meeting with the secretary confident, feeling refreshed that we have turned the page on the practices of the prior leadership, and feel that, as I listen to you guys every morning, I'm not going to hear, was it Brian's catchphrase every once a week when we have another juvenile do something that, we have another repeat offender coming back out. So I think we have definitely turned the page with the secretary. Give you a quick little history. Actually, I didn't realize who had gotten selected to be the secretary, because I knew her by her maiden name. And that day when I was there giving the tour, and I walked into the room and made the turn and saw her, both our head, my head kind of I took a second take, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So, I was in the House of Delegates for 2 years. I served on the Judiciary Committee, and she was a lobbyist and government affairs person that I worked with a lot there. Had a great relationship with her, and turns out I have, an incredible working relationship with her from years past. That instead of us sitting there spending time getting to know each other, understanding our philosophical beliefs, she knows where I come from, I know where she comes from, and we were able to hit the ground running in our discussions. And first thing she told me is, she goes, "I'm not Vinny."
It really.
Yeah, and it was refreshing. And look, I got to give Secretary Schiraldi credit. Although I disagreed with 99% of his policies, anytime I called him, I reached out to him, he was always responsive to me. He'd call me back. He'd write the letter back that I needed. Whatever it was, he was always there for me when I needed him. It was just his view of how to handle these juveniles was different than mine. But I believe with this new secretary, she has seen what has taken place. I think Governor Moore has seen it and realized, look, it's not working. What does he always say, Brian? It's not low-hanging fruit. What's the
Was it cherry picking?
Cherry picking.
Cherry picking.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, cherry picking. We're always cherry picking these stories that we have every single morning to ask him about. And there's that. Well, I'm glad he returned your phone calls. That's good. You're much more important than I am, or C4 for sure.
Well,
so let me ask you this though. I'm very happy to hear this about what you're saying. I've kind of gone back and forth on listening to some of the things that the new DJS Secretary, Betsy Fox Tolentino, has said. What makes you so confident that this is a game-changing moment for DJS? Why do you think she is going to be different and hopefully successful?
I think she has seen and heard what has taken place over the last 3 years, how things are not working. When I toured Charles Hickey, because one of the reasons I went there is it's a new area I represent. With redistricting, I took over that part of Baltimore County. I wanted to see it first time and understand it, and get a better grasp of how that facility is run, and look at prior issues we've had there. And just the conversations I had with her. I mean, look, is she going to fix everything? No. Let's be honest. I think some of the policies may stay. But I think the big thing was the catch and release that we're hearing about when these juveniles have an ankle monitor and they're picked up at 11 o'clock in the morning by the police committing a crime, and by 5 p.m., 6 p.m., they're back on the street.
Yep.
I think that's going to stop. That is the one thing that we kind of hit home on, is that's stopping. Ironically, I think we had one earlier we're already in July. I think it was either late June or early July up in Haverty Grace. We had some juveniles with ankle monitors that had done some carjackings, and I kept saying to her, that's the problem. People don't feel safe, and there is no, these juveniles are not facing any penalties. There's nothing stopping them. They know that it is a revolving door. They can just do the crime at 11 and get out by 5.
Well, Senator J.B. Jennings, since you have this relationship that goes back, and believe me, I know incoming as a new secretary, she's got to get a lot of things dealt with in a troubled organization. But the one thing that the state's attorneys, whether it's Ivan Bates or Scott Schellenberger in your area, or Rich Gibson in Howard County, they say is, if a juvenile has committed a certain level of crime, they need to be in front of a judge, not the DGS intake person who has a form, this detention assessment form, that determines whether they go home or not. Can you at least talk with her about that part, where that particular juvenile needs to see a judge, prosecutor, public defender process?
I did not talk to her about that, but it's something I can go back to and my conversations I'm going to have with her, and make sure I touch on that. We only had about an hour, and I had a lot to cover. So,
but the reason I bring that up, Senator, is because that to me would go a long way to dealing with the repeat offender part of this. Is if no longer a person that's sitting there without a lot of legal experience, but a document, a little form checking boxes, allows a young person to go home to commit the crime again.
Well, one thing she is doing is she's having their representatives from the juvenile justice system actually appear in court with them to give the judge more of a background on this.
And that's good.
Instead of it just being the parent saying, hey, little Johnny, he's a great kid, he just did something bad today. You're actually going to have this caseworker who knows Johnny's record and can say, hey, wait a minute, that's not true. Let me tell you what he has done over the past 2, 3, 4 years, where the judge can actually get more information. So, I say let's give her some time to get in there. Her feet are still wet. She just took it over a month ago. There's all kinds of, we spent 15, 20 minutes talking about technology. The fact that the IT system that they're using is very antiquated. It's very old. It's not working properly, and they can't get the data out of it that they need for some of these cases. So, that's one issue that she has to fix. So she's got a lot on her plate to fix. I think she is, and she's been in other states. We're talking about she was in Texas, and I think I can't remember all the other states where she's done some work. So she's, let's give benefit of the doubt, give her some time, and I think we're going to start to see some changes coming in.
All right. On the technology front, one of the questions we've had about these ankle monitors and the concern that they're just basically jewelry. They're not doing much. There's been some concern about whether or not these companies are really it's a return on investment for us, and whether or not they are helping in this kind of prevention or knowing exactly where kids are, and also are they reporting because they have a financial claim that works for them if they don't really say that these kids or even adults are leaving. Is that something that DJS or something, even if it's not just for juvenile services, should be looked at, do you think, in Annapolis for the next session?
Absolutely. Are they being, the term is monitored. Are they truly being monitored? That if somebody steps out of bounds where they're supposed to be, or, violates whatever the ankle monitor's perimeter has them, locked into, is there accountability beyond that point? Or is it just somebody looks at it and goes, oh, yeah, he left Baltimore County, he's up in Hartford County again, shame on him. No, it's, there needs to be accountability with these companies that, hey, you need to give us 100% reliability that you're tracking these individuals, you're reporting the data to us, in real time, so that, these correctional, I don't want to call them officers because, we're dealing with kids, but I guess you call them, I don't know the term we use.
DJS people.
Yeah. But that they're able to say, hey, you know what, you violated the rules for your release. Guess what? You're coming back. Because that's the problem, is there's no enforcement or lack of it from what I'm hearing, that these kids, when they do stuff, they're wearing an ankle monitor, but other than that, they can still do whatever they want. It's making sure that there's the accountability and the enforcement from DJS or, even for regular, adults.
Yeah.
That, correctional officers can go after them and say, hey, you stepped outside your line. Let's go. You're coming back.
State Senator J.B. Jennings is on board with us. As I mentioned, Republican. He's a member of the Budget and Taxation Committee. I want to shift a little bit, Senator, to talk about Governor Westmore and his announcement that since we do have this $3.3 billion deficit in the budget that's been, a lot of it